Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for tuning into the Streets Photog podcast. I'm your host, David Joseph Delgrand. Excuse me, I'm still a little hoarse, still getting over a little bit of a cold. But wanted to tune in, do a little bit of Friday feelings, talk about a book that is currently impacting my photographic work and my life in general. Today we are tackling Marcus Aurelius Meditations. Excuse me. It's Friday, May 27th. It's about noontime. It's been a pretty mild May so far here in Tucson. Birds are chirping. Definitely getting a little bit of nice, wispy, windy evenings, which has cooled off the day a little bit. I'm pretty sure we're going to get triple digits this weekend, but it's been pretty mild so far. But as the summer progresses, I think August will be a different story. But in book 4 of Meditations, there's a small passage that's impacted my professional and photographic life over the past, 3 weeks at least, when I started reading this book. So I'm going to start by reading it, and then we can talk about it a bit. Quote, Then what should we work for? Only this: proper understanding, unselfish action, truthful speech, a resolve to accept whatever happens as necessary and familiar, flowing like water from the same source and spring. Now that final part really speaks to me as of recent. Marcus Aurelius goes on to explain that there is no success without failure, and that you can't decouple those two things because they're part of the same trajectory, especially when you're trying to pretty much do anything in life, whether it's professionally or personally. And really the tricky part about going with the flow, for lack of a better description, is being able to do that in real time when life is stressful. Now, during the past week, I've been quarantined for COVID. I'm dealing with some issues at work because of it, and at first it was really stressful to know that potentially I wasn't being covered and cared for in a proper way when you look at the dynamic between an employee and an employer. Excuse me. And yeah, I mean, for the first few hours when I kind of got some bad news about me returning back to work, it was definitely something that made me question, okay, am I employed in the right place? And then as a creative person who's getting multiple projects off the ground, dream projects off the ground, it's really easy to go to a place of saying, am I doing the right thing? I'm not doing the right thing because I'm not seeing these benchmarks achieved in the time frame that I would like. But this passage speaks to that sense of patience and that sense of grace under pressure. When things aren't going your way, you have to understand that that energy is coming from a place that's pushing you forward, no matter how small and incremental that is. That's how I take that passage. And it definitely made me think about a lot of the photographic mistakes that I have made in the past. And we're talking about having gigs as an 18-year-old who recently moved to Sacramento. And until I started thinking about this particular podcast episode, I had forgot about that little era of trying to shoot photographs, 35 millimeter photographs at that, of sports teams in the Sacramento area. And I remember going out on a few shoots, had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I had a decent eye for photography, but I mean, that is just a completely different skill set. Just like if you're a wedding photographer or you're a model photographer, anything along those lines, it takes a certain eye and certain discipline. And I remember coming back from those shoots, and this was a side hustle at the time, and just really understanding how poor of a job I did. But it was such an interesting era for me because it was fruitful and rich in so many facets, meaning it definitely gave me an idea that I didn't want to do that for a living. My guess is that if I got the hang of it, I could have made a decent wage out of it, and it would have been more money than what I was making working retail at that point. But I didn't have any interest in the work, and it was tremendously difficult for what it was paying. I also experienced that in, the professional journalism world. While that professional world offers a lot of great opportunities, the climb to get to someplace significant was not something that I could stomach. So very early in my career, I knew that while I was at university, I wouldn't be in that industry long. And those pitfalls, even though stressful, most of the time in real time, I could recognize that it's just part of the trajectory of getting me where I want. Some of the most important lessons are learning what you don't want. And this passage builds on the fact of, unless you know what you don't want, especially the don't wants that you come from, or that you get from failures, how do you know you're actually on the right path without those bumps in the road? First of all, you're not going to build up any wisdom. You're not going to build up a tough skin, which is what you need as an entrepreneur, business owner, or any type of freelancer. Someone who can stand on their own and provide for a family and for themselves. You need to have strength and determination, grit, as they say. And that grit is born from the failures. So in real time, when you're in a stressful situation, I'm still learning how to understand that the stressors and the success are part of the same one-way path that's going towards a beautiful life, a beautiful realized life. So that's what I have today for Friday. Again, we're reading Marcus Aurelius Meditations. Highly recommend it. Stoic philosophy, definitely a favorite of mine recently. And we're just chilling. I think we're going to take an impromptu trip to Bisbee this weekend just to get some mountain air in and enjoy some time with my fiance. So until next time, I'll see you in the streets. If you're interested in supporting this podcast or any of my other creative adventures, please log on to my website, davidjdelgrand.com, and purchase my first self-published softcover photo book, Lutes del Barrio. It's good life.